Most law firm owners are either overthinking YouTube or completely avoiding it. The YouTube Accelerator in Chicago is going to fix that. This 2-day event on June 11th and 12th is built specifically for law firm owners who are ready to take YouTube seriously. You'll hear directly from guest experts like Jeff Hampton and Ryan Weber, and we're covering the full YouTube growth stack. Niche and content pillars, topic ideation and messaging, hooks and intros, thumbnails and titles, recording strategy, editing, channel positioning, and the growth systems that actually drive results. You'll walk away with a real plan you can execute. Get the full event details and grab your seat at maxlawevents.com.
This is Maximum Lawyer with your host, Tyson Mutrux.
Welcome back to the Maximum Lawyer podcast. Today we're sharing a session from MaxLawCon 2025. Today's presentation features Sonia Lakhany, a trademark attorney who has been practicing for 15 plus years and has spent the last several years building and teaching through her course, 2 Weeks to Trademarks. In this talk, Sonia breaks down how law firm owners can monetize what they already know through digital products without getting stuck trading time for money. She covers what you can create, who can buy it, how to validate an idea before you build it, the ethics considerations you need to keep clean, and the exact tech stack she uses to sell and deliver products. It's part strategy, part systems, and a lot of stop overthinking it and start. This is Sonia Lakhany's MaxLawCon session, Unbillable Brilliance, monetizing your legal knowledge online.
I'm excited to present to you Unbillable Brilliance. Let's monetize your knowledge through digital products and make a little passive income. So, hi, I'm Sonia Lakhany. I have been practicing trademark law for over 15 years now under my own practice. And over the last 8 and change of those years, I've been teaching trademark law through a course that I created called 2 Weeks to Trademarks. And like the title suggests, you can in fact become fluent and proficient in practicing trademark law if you should so want to offer it to your clients. So it is absolutely doable. One of the coolest things about trademarks, I can't take credit for this part, is that you can practice trademarks from absolutely anywhere in the world. And not only can you be anywhere, but so can your clients. Because it's a federal practice area. And so the world is your oyster, and that is why trademarks is such a lucrative practice and why our community of lawyers enjoys so much of the business out there. And there's a spike in entrepreneurship right now. There has been for years. So if you have any questions at all, being business transactional attorney or not, happy to answer. And so along the way, as I've been teaching and practicing and teaching, like any good trademark lawyer should, I decided that there needs to be a brand around this, right? Because I had the one course, but I had lots of others that came along the way. And so I thought, you know what, let's try to think of a brand name that really encompasses this concept of, we didn't learn how to practice law in law school. Does anybody feel that way? Okay, let's try this. Raise your hand if you learned how to practice law in law school. Yeah, okay, so see, nobody did. And did anybody pay upwards through either student loans or cold hard cash? Did anybody pay upwards of over $100,000 for that law degree? Boom. Anybody still paying it off? That's what I thought. Yeah, no fun. Go see Chelsea about that. She'll get you right. Okay. But that being said, I just think we all really should have learned a thing or two about how to do our jobs, you know, kind of like how they do in med school. So anyway, that's what I started out to do, and here we are. So before I dive into the material, I would love it if we picked a way to stay connected. Here's 3 choices. You can add me on LinkedIn. I'm Sonia Lakhany. You can add me on Instagram. If you're an Instagram person, I'm at Trademark Lawyer Lady. Follow me, I'll follow you back. And if all else fails, I have a huge Facebook group for, it's called Trademark Attorneys/Lawyers, but despite what the name suggests, we welcome trademark attorneys from any level. We recommend or accept attorneys of any level. And so if you're even a little bit curious at all, come join. There's no obligation to get involved in trademarks. You can be a fly on the wall. We've got family attorneys, immigration attorneys, crim, because we talk about a lot of the things that we've talked about here at MaxLawCon, right? Just how to optimize and be better at what we do. So come join our discussions. In terms of what I'm going to cover today, we're going to talk about some basics in terms of getting started with digital products. So things like thinking beyond the billable hour and, of course, those fun bar ethics issues, right? We got to think about those. And then we're going to get right into the meat of this sandwich. We're going to talk about what you can create, who your audience could be, how to get from idea to product, recommended tools that I use. I'll give you my whole tech stack so you have a place to start. We'll talk about, the obvious one, who's going to buy it and how, and then a few hard-won lessons, and I'll leave you with some resources that have helped me. So off the top, we've talked a lot about the billable hour the last couple days and how it is meeting its slow decline, and that could not be more true for the era of digital products. So this is a form of leveraged income versus trading time for money. So the idea is that you put in a little bit of effort up front for a payoff later, right? And so for those of us, raise your hand if you are a burst, work in seasons kind of person. You can go hard and then you want to take a step back, go hard, right? Anybody? Yeah, those of you who had your hands up probably have some form of ADHD, I imagine. Anybody? Yeah, we can go really hard and then we need a break. And this whole 8 to 10 hour days, day after day with no end in sight is like really not for us. And so digital products are fun for that. That being said, I have to make sure I give you the very clear disclaimer. And those of you I've had drinks and lunch and stuff with, we've talked about this. Digital products are not passive from the start, and they don't always stay that way across the way, right? Things break. First of all, it takes quite a bit to set it up, a lot of front-loaded labor, but then there's a payoff, because you will be out with your friends or with your family on vacation, and then you'll see a little deposit come in. Ching. Another ching, 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 and you're like, it's kind of like a slot machine in a way, right? So it is fun, and it can be a very lucrative business. And so in terms of the necessary coverage of bar ethics issues, I'm just going to say this, set it up as a separate entity. You do not want any commingling, let's just not, right? So of course, you do have to adhere to the same professional conduct standards that you would have to as you're practicing law, because the license follows you around town, right? So don't do anything in your digital products business or promise anything or sell anything that you wouldn't want the bar to see, right? It's all one thing. In terms of permissibility to even do this, make sure you just check with your local jurisdiction. Shout out to Florida for having the craziest, wonkiest rules I've ever seen. I'm not a member of the Florida Bar, and I never will be for that reason. That being said, also, do any of you, raise your hands, have an audience where other attorneys may be interested in what your knowledge is? A few of you, okay. So those of you who have that in terms of an audience, that other attorneys might be interested, you may look at providing CLE credit for a webinar you provide or course or something like that. And so 4L Education has the honor of ABA approval, which is really hard to get, you guys. It was a big deal last year. And so we have a partnership with the ABA to be able to provide CLE credit in almost any state under the regulations they have, which is, certain things are just not creditable, things like marketing and business development, but we have found some ways around it. But for the most part, anything that you've taken a CLE on or that you'd want to teach for other attorneys, we can probably figure out a way to get credit for it. So I'm happy to open my DMs at any point, my email for questions on that or anything else that I talk about. So you have found lots of ways to connect with me, and I'll give you them again before we end. And so just a word on CLE credit, though, that it is a very tedious process. And so I do recommend teaming up with somebody, even if it's not 4L. We're happy to sponsor it and collab or co-host it. But even if not, it just really know that it needs to be worth it. It's a very expensive endeavor. And 4L's main audience is attorneys, so it makes sense for us financially to take that on. But if not, and you don't need to be 50 states wide, maybe not, right? So. Okay, in terms of what you could possibly teach, a couple questions I get a lot. Do I have to teach legal content? I'm an attorney. That's all I know. That's not true. A lot of you guys are good at a lot of things. There's a couple of you that are good at fashion. You guys have cute outfits the last couple of days. I see you guys. Some of you... I was thinking of you when I said that. Some of you, I'm sure, are great cooks, right? Jordan mentioned he does a majority of the cooking during the wedding game show. So you have a lot of talents. There is a story somewhere floating around on the internet about a mom who has a really picky eater as a child. And she's like, I have just finally landed the perfect lunch menu for the week that I can swap around and the kid will eat all of them. And I managed to, the whole trick of like grinding broccoli into the pasta sauce to sneak in vegetables. And so she's made upwards of hundreds, lots of commas and zeros on a couple of guides and PDFs. So it sounds like a gimmick, and I promise you it's not, because 4L has made an insane amount of revenue from courses and workbooks. So I understand that the material is a little different, but the principle remains the same. So no, you don't have to just teach legal content. You can talk about anything that you're an expert in, because if there are people that want to learn from you, they will buy it, right? So it depends, but you'd be surprised at the kinds of things that can be monetized. And so I do wonder about this because you're here in this session, but it's also the only session left. So show of hands, are you listening right now? Because raise your hand if you are interested in someday having a digital product. Raise your hands. Hands remain high if you already have something to the tune of something online. Okay, not as many, but a few. Okay, so course, workbooks, if you guys want to shout out, like what all are you selling? Course, PDFs, guides of any, checklists? Okay, now raise your hand if you think you could probably drum up a checklist or a guide or something in your world. Yeah, either for current clients, potential clients that become current clients because your guide was so helpful that they wanted to work with you, right? Or maybe the timing wasn't right, and now it is. Or, what we see this a lot, is that somebody will see what you're doing and want to work with you, maybe budget doesn't allow, but they've got some money to spend, right? I'm not a designer girl, really, but Louis Vuitton, as I understand it, has trunks and big suitcases, and they also have keychains. They're like, you want to come spend money with us? We got something for you, right? So there's something for everybody in terms of what you can share with your knowledge, and you can start small. It can even be a free download, right? We've heard the words lead magnet before, lots of content happening around here. So you got some choices. In terms of choices, here is a small list, but not exhaustive, of what you could create. As I understand it, you are getting the replay of all of these sessions, and I believe also all of the slides. So please don't feel pressured to write any of this down. You're more than welcome to take a screenshot. I don't mind at all. And I'm also happy to send the deck immediately today rather than if nobody wants to wait. But I do think we get all the materials, which is nice because I missed a couple. So you could choose from something like a template, PDF, full course, mini course, even a tutorial on a specific topic, right? So this is something that a lot of people don't think about, but you could hone in on a specific process on anything that you find yourself repeating, teaching to your clients, that you wish clients would be able to know before they came to work with you. So there's a lot of ways to adapt this concept of digital products. And almost all of them are monetizable in some way. So the most popular one for attorneys tends to be contract templates or templates of any kind. Hands up if that's something you're thinking about in your own, yeah? So because we have the benefit of a little bit longer of a session, thank you to the team at Max Law for giving me a little bit larger of a bracket, and you stayed till the end, so let's take some real examples. Somebody want to shout out, what are you thinking about creating, and how can we fine-tune it a little bit? Anybody who's thinking about doing contract templates? Okay, who's thinking about doing like a guide of some sort or a checklist? I love that. Okay, so for those of you who didn't hear, she's talking about creating a guide to be able to onboard your paralegal and support staff so it just shortcuts the time from hire to getting your revenue back on that hire, right? So, and that is something that you're thinking to market to other attorneys? Okay, yeah, exactly. And so when people talk about the idea of digital products, they're like, well, I'm not gonna make $100,000 from that. Maybe true, sure, but also maybe not yet, right? And it depends how much the thing is, right? So do you have a price point in mind for what you're, having gotten the front? Okay, let's get just basic guidelines, right? So first of all, what you don't need to know everything about a certain topic in order to have the right to create a digital product. So limiting beliefs, let's take that right off the table. You need to know some amount more than the person who's gonna buy it. That's what you need. And the more you know, beyond the person who's going to buy it, the more you get to charge. That's just how it works. And so under 4L, for example, we have a whole store, and we're going to talk about the tools and all the tech in like 2 slides, because that's the meat of this sandwich. Everyone wants to know the how eventually, right? So we have an array of things on our store. Majority of them speak to learning trademarks in some capacity, although we are looking to expand, which is why I went with a name that could encompass beyond trademarks, right? And so, for example, we have a tutorial of a very specific topic, how to withdraw as an attorney on an existing trademark application. Client doesn't want to pursue it anymore, they stopped responding, they stopped paying, who knows, right? But you got to get out. And so that's a very specific process. It's very explainable, right? And so I did a screen share using Loom, and I found the templates that we need in order to send the emails that we send to the client. Basically, there's a 2.5-month-ish lead time before the next deadline, basically. And so there's a series of emails that you want to send to your client to be like going, gone, like, and if they still don't respond, you're good to leave, right? Or to withdraw. And so I packaged up the emails that we sent, and I recorded myself physically going through the USPTO process and doing the withdrawal on a fake client, right? That tutorial, I believe it sells for $97, what I just mentioned, right? That little kit. And it's very specific. $97. It sells decently well, right? Because when you got to get out, you got to get out. And often, we see 2 a.m. sales. I'm like, oh, let's see what you did. Okay, I'm glad we could help, right? On the other end of the spectrum, we have, for example, 2 weeks of trademarks, which is the signature course that I have. And that is around $3,000 because you're learning an entire practice area with no prior knowledge, right? The course assumes you know nothing you don't even know what a trademark is. And so to go from 0 to, oh, wow, in 2 weeks or less, because you could binge it, right? I mean, we've seen people do it. In a weekend, even if you've got 30 hours to spare, you could binge watch it. You could be filing trademarks by Monday. Now, that's a big jump from the attorney who knows 0 to a whole new practice area. So it warrants a higher price point. So yes, there is money to be made, but it has a lot to do with what you're teaching, who's buying it. And it's not because attorneys are our audience. It's because of the jump in knowledge we're providing, right? So you could apply that mentality to whatever topic you have in mind, or hopefully maybe it helps you select. Because don't all of us have lots of ideas on what we could sell, right? So maybe this helps you rank them. That, hey, there is a jump in knowledge on hopefully all of these. Which one of these ideas would be the biggest jump for my buyer? And that's the one you should probably pursue. So speaking of who's going to buy your product, it does not necessarily have to be your clients, because you're like, well, they already bought my legal services. I don't want to, pitch them for more. Okay, maybe they're not it, right? They could be potential clients, like I said. They could be people that come across your social media and, like I said, are not ready to buy in that moment, or that's just too big, and they're not even ready to schedule a consult because that's too big too. And if you've been applying some of what we've been learning, hopefully you're not charging for consults, and that's why maybe someone isn't ready, because even that is too much of an expense. But they'll buy a guide, they'll buy a checklist to start to learn who you are, right? And so a digital product can be free. It can be a lead magnet, as we've mentioned, that can end up being monetized because they end up hiring you. Or you can see that a lot of people are downloading it, and then you start charging a price for it, and now you've monetized it. And it can really be anyone who can benefit from what you teach. So you're not limited in just your legal knowledge, and you're not limited to just clients. The recommendation I would give you in terms of how to cultivate this audience is to you have 2 choices. Either you go where the people are that need your services. So just like our exhibitors in the back, right? We have everybody from Get Staffed Up, who provides VA, to the Pennywise Accounting, and everybody else in between. They know where their people are. Their customers, or ideal customers, are law firm owners. So they set up a table in a room full of law firm owners, right? So they go where their people are. Or you create a space or a community for them. When I first started teaching trademarks, I had been practicing at that time for a little over 7 or 8 years. There was a happy medium that had to take place before you're allowed to start teaching something. And so no space existed. None of this did. And so when people used to ask me how I learned how to practice trademarks, my answer then and now still is that there was no course, there was no 4L, and there was no Sonia. I learned by making a bunch of mistakes and getting yelled at by all the partners I worked for before I eventually resigned and started my own practice. And so because no space existed, I created one. And that's how that Facebook group that I mentioned was born. There was no one to, the proverbial like going down the hall and asking questions, right? It's lonely as a solo, and especially in a practice that was as niche as mine. I had nobody, right? It's very, very difficult. And so you're not limited from being able to create the space, the Slack group, the Discord channel, whatever you want to do to create a place for those people to gather. So this is always fun, is to give actual ideas, right? Because I'm a tangible ideas kind of girl. I don't want to just give you a bunch of fun stuff and then leave. So you can screenshot this if you want to. It's part of the slides. But here are just some examples of what different attorneys in different practice areas could do. So one of the ones that I really like a lot out of this list is the first one, which is the court day survival kit, right? So those of you who are in practice areas that require a hearing, a court, anything, any kind of court date, anything, right? So example practice area fits for this one are crim, family law, and immigration. So what should a client know before their, custody hearing, right? Parents stress, they're like, we're getting divorced, I don't know what's gonna happen, it's game day, and I don't know what I'm gonna need. I need a pep talk maybe. Maybe I need some pointers on parking and how this. So why not record a video of yourself giving the speech that you give? Hey, this is what you need. Hey, you got this, okay? Just keep in mind X, Y, and Z is gonna happen. And don't park here even though it says, because that's gonna run out on the meter. And whatever you have to say about the thing, say it, give an example, give a little checklist, and now you've got a small little digital product that can be sold to not only your current clients, right, or your potential clients. And so they can fall into that bucket of, well, I have a court date coming up. I can't afford this person. I really like their content. Oh, they have a $29 court day survival kit. Let me get that. And I understand that $29 is not a lot of money, but you put it together once. This is the essence of being an IP attorney. We practice what we preach. IP is all about creating it once and reaping the benefits later, right? In any capacity. And so you can think of this as meal prepping, right? So anytime you're making a dish, make double and then freeze it. And then on a rainy day, you'll be really happy that the past you thought of the future you. And so that it really does function a lot like that. So going from idea to product, this will be fun. So you'll notice that the creation of the product is not until number 6. And there is a reason for that. I was asked to speak on this because I've been doing it for quite a while now, and I've made all the mistakes you can think of. I still make them. I've learned a lot, and this is the best example in this space for me of just do it like this, trust me, because the other ways will get you frustrated and it'll be a waste. And so I didn't put name at the first because I'm a trademark lawyer. That really is what you need to do, is choose a hopefully protectable name for it. That's step 1, right? So you can start with court day survival kit. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not a trademarkable phrase, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be, right? But you need to call it something. The better and more unique it is, the better it'll be, right? But don't get hung up on any one of these steps. Uncle Chat can always be helpful. You can feed it, the names you have in mind and ask it to spit out fun things and give it prompts. So when I've been playing around with our product names, I really enjoy witty puns and plays on words, as you can tell with 4L, for example. And so there's something called the assignment of a trademark application. Basically, it just means that you're transferring the ownership of one trademark between one company and another one. In the trademark world, that's called an assignment. And so that product that teaches the process of assigning a trademark with a template and so on is called We Understood the Assignment. I just thought it'd be fun, and it sells very well, right? So as you're thinking about these things, it's fun to come up with names if that's your jam, but don't get caught in it. Just pick a name and move on to step 2, which is the separate entity. You must, just trust me. Separate entity, EIN, bank account. Stripe is sort of the favored payment processor in this space, although I don't know, maybe there's other ones. I'm a big fan of like picking one and just rolling with it until it becomes a problem, and then we go from there, you know? The thing I like about it being a separate entity is that you can do all the fun bells and whistles with promotion and marketing that you really can't do sometimes as an attorney. So for example, you can very easily share revenue and split and things like that with someone who's also, for example, promoting your digital product on their website. If you guys decide to do a webinar together because, you know, that it's a really sort of a happy connection. So I know, for example, in family law, I believe that I've heard therapists are a really good referral source, AKA like also a good collaboration partner. And so maybe you guys team up to teach a webinar or create a guide of some sort or whatever you're thinking about. Well, now you can say, hey, here's a 60-40 split, or this is what we're going to do. And you can just have so much more monetary fun when you're a separate entity and it's being handled by that. You don't want the income from your digital products to get commingled into your law firm revenue and trust. And could you imagine? There's no way. So no. So step 2. Step 3 is you got to figure out who's going to buy this thing. And there's a really good reason for that because it leads directly into number 4, which is you got to start creating content around this. The only way to figure out if anyone's going to buy it is to test, which means to put out a free video, a social media post, and not just one, like several. And as you're able to see what people are clicking on, what they're downloading, so that's where the free lead magnet might be some insight, right? Because here's the thing, if you've made a bunch of videos about court day survival and what you need, and hey, are you nervous? And nobody ever clicks on these videos, if they're not clicking on it for free, they're certainly not going to buy it, right? And so this is the best way to conquer what I know a fear is. Hands up if this is a fear for you in this topic, is what if I go through all the trouble of recording something and then I do this and I edit it and I upload it and I choose a graphic and nobody buys it? Does anybody have that limitation? Okay. Is that Tyson raising his? Okay, if Tyson has that fear, I'm sure a lot of you guys have that fear too, right? And so this is how you avoid that happening, is you test the market first. Now, if people are clicking on, let's go with the court day survival kit example. And if a bunch of people are clicking on the video about, you know, preparing your nerves and how to sleep the night before and how to manage your emotions going into that day and things to keep in mind, then that's something you should take into account and say, hey, people want more of that. Because once you create the content, you're able to set up what we like to call like pre-sale or early access. You send the buzz going, right? Anytime we've seen anything big happen, I love borrowing, by the way, from regular e-commerce and regular retail because they're light years ahead of us in terms of marketing and sales practices. And so anytime there's a big thing coming, don't we get a coming soon pre-sale? Even restaurants, coming soon this fall, a new location of whatever in your city. You got to create a buzz for it because, again, if people are not signing up for early access just to be on the list when you announce it and they're not clicking on any video about it that you've made to gauge interest, they're not going to buy it. But the other way is also very helpful. And so this is where you have to have a lot of humility because we don't know everything. And one of the things we really don't know for certain is what your audience member truly wants. They have to tell you and you have to let them tell you. And that, if I could, I mean, I have a lot of lessons. I made a list of them at the end, but that's a big one. And if I could leave you with something, that is probably rule number 1, and it's the biggest one, is let the market tell you what it is they want from you, right? So put content out, put videos out, social, test. Now, another way around this that only a slide can only talk about so much is if you have people in mind that you think could be a buyer for your product, get on Zoom with them. Start asking questions. Go to lunch with them. I did so much research when I first started teaching trademark to other attorneys because people would message me on LinkedIn and go, do you have a course? I'm like, well, what would you want me to teach on? How to do trademarks. Well, what part of it? Oh, all of it? And I'm like, okay, help me help you, right? So as you get down and you start asking questions, I realized that there are a couple of major areas people want help with. And then I started teaching it. And I created the curriculum to directly mirror the things that people wanted, right? This isn't rocket science, but it's a really, really big way to make sure that this ends up going positively for you rather than not negatively. No one wants to waste a bunch of time and money because all of you, I think, have law practices. And so there is no worse feeling than putting a bunch of time into creating something and being like, I could have billed for that or gotten another client or not done that at all and watched a Netflix show. So my goal here in this is to help you, if you want to do it where it's a win the first time, right? I would say of all of the products I've created over the years, I maybe have failed twice. And we've launched a ton. Every single one of them has been a win because of the strategize. It's the mirroring strategy, right? And one time I was wrong, and if you're curious, I can tell you the story, but it was a mentorship, but it was like a monthly membership that it included like 2 calls with myself and one of my instructors under 4L, and nobody ever showed up to the calls. And you wanna know why? Because the membership was $39 a month. We just didn't think that would happen. I was like, of course, if you have access to 2 trademark attorneys that are experts in their field, and we're on Zoom for an hour twice a month, and it's $39 a month, wouldn't you be there the entire time, every time? No one ever showed up. $39. And that's the thing, right, is that at some point it's not about collecting revenue. Anybody else would have let that ride as long as they could have, right? But we didn't feel right. We were like, we got to shut this down. This is a fail. So we could rework it, we could not, but that's not the point of this story. The point of this story is that if you do this right and you listen to your buyer, right, and if you don't want to do the whole create content, see what people click on, because that's a little bit of a longer strategy, just make a list right now. Open a document, get your notes out, and say, who are 5 people that I think would buy this? And get on the phone with them next week. Email them, see if they'll give you some of their time, ask them questions. Ask Uncle Chat to give you questions, right? So an example prompt for just to try it could say, I'm an estate planning attorney. I'm looking to create this for so-and-so, and this would be my audience. Someone has agreed who is also an estate planning attorney, and that's my, my sample audience. They've agreed to get on the phone with me. I'd like to ask them market research questions. What do you recommend I ask them? What questions should I ask someone that would be a potential buyer for this digital product I'm trying to create? And like the previous speaker mentioned, context is everything. Give it as much as you can, right? You could even upload a sample product that maybe you've downloaded a PDF or something and you really liked what they did and you want to adapt it for your world. Upload it and say, I'm a criminal attorney. I want to adapt this PDF from a completely different business into what I do, right? So there's a lot of ways around this, but once you've done the adequate amount of market research, then and only then do you create the product. You see there? So that's how we avoid the wastage of time and energy. And I put a couple of tools right there, but there's a whole tool slide. So we'll get to that, which is right here. Okay, so this is everyone's favorite because it's the tech stack, right? And if I can give you a place to start, my job here is done. This is the exact stack we use at 4L, and you're welcome to rip it off because, well, it got us this far. Is it the best? No. I hate half the list, actually, and I wouldn't have done it that way, but nobody, Klaviyo didn't ask me if I like their software or not. So anyway, so Zoom, we all know. Loom, some of you may not be familiar with, and if you are, I have a feature of it that you'll be absolutely very impressed by. So Loom, for those of you who don't know, is a screen recording software. So basically, you can show yourself walking through, clicking, and whatever, and you can voice over it. You can also have your camera going if you should so choose, but you don't have to. And then it creates a shareable link that you don't have to upload anywhere, and it just lives forever. What it also does is it makes it really the new version or new feature as of like 6 to 9 months ago. It makes it super easy to edit the video. Hands up if that's a pain point for you. None of us are video editors, right? So have you ever given a talk or a webinar and you're like, I would love to circulate that, but I got to edit out the Q&A and the this and the ums. No one has time for that. So Loom makes it super easy, and I promise I don't work for Loom. But basically, if you get on and you say start, and you're like, hi, blah, 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 and you're like, I fumbled my words. You go something like cut, pause, blah, 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 and you just restart, right? Just like you would anywhere that you're recording. What Loom will do is their AI feature will transcribe it as we go. Okay, nothing cool there. you can literally select the text that doesn't belong because you messed it up or whatever. And that's the joy of using something like cut or like a hard stop and then pausing so you have the video space so it doesn't seem choppy. You can select it and just hit delete and it stitches the video. And then once you play the video again, it's just in the program. I was like, this is amazing. So I love Zoom and Loom for stuff like that, especially recording a really specific process like I mentioned, but you can teach a whole course using those. My slides were already submitted by yesterday, long before that. And so somebody mentioned a program called Descript, which blows Loom out of the water. And so I owe it to you to pass that on because it was just told to me yesterday. And it sounds like Loom on steroids. And so I am gonna go check it out after this, but Loom is what I've been using and it's what got us this far. Canva, everybody knows. Anybody not familiar with Canva? Just curious? No? Yeah, see, we all know. The graphics creators and the templates. I recommend the pro version because you can upload your brand colors. So all the hex codes that you use that are very specific shade of yellow or orange or whatever, you can feed it into there. The pro version, once you find a template or a graphic or a PDF style that you really like, with one button, it applies your branding colors all over again. So none of us are graphic designers, myself included. We don't need to be wasting time on that. And another takeaway I'll give you that has really, I think, solidified for me the last couple days is that not doing it yourself is number one. Okay, so someone else has to do it, right? Things like that. But it could be something else, meaning AI, an automation, a tool. And so if one click of a button in Canva can do it, you don't even need to outsource it to a VA, right? So think about that always as how can I use, not just in this context of digital products, but in anything is if AI can do it, that's even cheaper and more reliable than a VA, but VA comes before you. So under no circumstances should anyone in this room be playing with Canva. Number 3. So Shopify. A lot of you have heard of it. Most retailer websites, e-commerce that you visit are hosted on Shopify. That's where they get all their templates. A pro tip there is that, so Shopify's language for a template is called a theme, right? And I'm condensing years and years of messing these things up in a very short amount of time. So I'm hoping this helps you guys. So when you select a theme, meaning a template for your website, you want to keep in mind that you are a digital products business. You're not a high-end fashion retailer, right? Because Shopify is built for all retailers, specifically ones that have physical items. And so when you're choosing themes, you don't want to choose a theme that is really editorial graphic heavy because you're not going to have a lot of graphics. You're going to have a title graphic for the product, maybe a photograph of what's included or like a couple of testimonials, but you don't want a theme that has that's built for retail, right? And so you'll know what I'm talking about once you get there, but you can browse themes for free and you can start picking one and typing onto it also for free. So Shopify doesn't start charging you until you actually select it and move forward. So playing around is totally free. And I recommend Shopify just because it is the easiest, it's the iPhone of hosting a store online to me. It's just plug and play, very intuitive. All the apps that you'd want to use all plug into it. They have a whole app store. So there's a lot to choose from. Honorable mentions for hosting your product go to Samcart and Gumroad. These are two that are lesser known in the sense. Samcart's gotten pretty big. They're all built to do the same thing at the end of the day. I will say that if you only have just the one PDF, look at something like Gumroad or Samcart because you're not having to do a whole store and do all this, and you might not want to go that hard at the beginning, right? So that's an option too. When we first started, we didn't have Shopify either. We moved to Shopify 3 or 4 years ago. So up till then, we sold from a landing page, and you can do that too, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Klaviyo is the email platform that syncs with Shopify. So it's really cool if you envision yourself having 2 or more-ish, products where you have a whole thing going. Klaviyo will immediately pull and sync the data from Shopify, every single transaction and everything about the transaction. The buyer, where they're located, what they had for breakfast, what they viewed before they bought this, all of their pixel and tech stuff that it's an insane amount of information. Plus what they bought, when they bought it, all of that. And so for retargeting purposes, and if you ever wanted to email a certain segment, so let's say, for example, you want to email of your clientele, right? So if you're going to launch the court day survival kit, and you're like, okay, who has a court date coming up that would be, a good audience for this? So maybe you pull that from your case management software and you say, okay, this is the segment of people that we want to market toward. And then you send them an email, and then half of them buy it. Now, Klaviyo has the data on all these people, and you can start to see trends and say, oh, okay, so these are, all of the buyers were men of my clientele that I emailed it to. That tells us something, right? Is that men in your world for this product are the buyers. And so you can obviously use that information to optimize your product, make it better, maybe market it only to those people so that you get more sales, and you know the drill. So moving on, Kajabi is what we host our course on. Kajabi is like Netflix. The idea is that you upload your videos, you can upload syllabus, PDF, companion. All of our courses come with templates and guides and fun little stuff to help you out as you go, right? Like a true course should. And Kajabi is what we use to host it. And so the idea is that as soon as someone enrolls and buys through Shopify, they immediately get their own personalized login link with a password and everything. And then they log in, and it's their Netflix. And so our students, when I say students, I mean attorneys, but our attorneys, when they log into their 4L Kajabi, every single one of them can see their own courses that they've purchased from us. So it all lives in one place. Honorable mentions go to Thinkific is another one. I've not used it, but it's popular in the space. There are a few others. Teachable, I believe, is another one that's fairly popular. With any of these, if you Google software for blank, you're going to get like 1,600 options, right? So I go with the ones that are industry leaders. I don't recommend going with newbies on some of this stuff if you're also a newbie to digital products, because you don't know what you don't know. And so you don't know if the features you need are going to be there. And so I like to go with people who are established. Sorry, this keeps... Okay. So that's Kajabi. Zapier, I'm sure many of you have heard about it, but that's just a way to connect it all, especially for a lot of these programs that don't natively talk to each other. So in the example that I just gave, if you're going to use Shopify, once the transaction takes place on Shopify, how do we fulfill that order? How do we make sure that the person gets access? Well, if you're just doing a PDF, Shopify has an absolutely free digital download. That's what it's called, the digital download widget. And all you do is you upload the PDF that is the product into the product page within Shopify. And so as soon as someone buys it, it's available right there for download, and then they get a copy of it as soon as they check out. Very easy. Well, what if you have a course like we do? We have lots of them. So we want you to get Kajabi access, like I mentioned. Well, Shopify and Kajabi don't talk to each other. How do we make them talk to each other? And so we built Zaps on the back end to say, every time a purchase is made for this product, send them a link that gives them access to that product name in Kajabi, right? So these are all the things that I learned the hard way. There was a time and a place, you guys, years ago when we first started selling these, and as soon as someone would enroll, I was at my computer the entire time. And so I had Kajabi open and I had Shopify open, and I'd be like, Grant, okay, let me search this person's email address. Grant. That's embarrassing, but it's the kind of stuff that you do when someone's paid for a product. You got to make sure they get access, right? So I didn't know this stuff was possible until you learn and learn. So Zapier is what connects it all. You could apply Zapier to things that are outside of this world. Zapier has so many automations for literally any program, and so it's a fun little exploration. Stripe, as I mentioned, is for payments processing. And of course, we all know about GoDaddy in terms of domain ownership. But anytime you're thinking about what your product could be called, you obviously want to check if the domain's available. That's not a trademark. I just have to give you that. But it is a step toward trademarking it. Okay, where and how to sell. So you need a website and social media as soon as possible on this, right? So if it depends if the content of your digital product is going to be related to your law practice, and if it's legal knowledge that you're going to be doing, then great, you already have probably what you need. If you're gonna be the parent that teaches, or has a digital product about picky eater recipes, well, then you might need a different website and a different social account. So that's okay too. Either way, we are in an era where people want to have something a little bit to binge on before they pay you. That's just kind of how it works. And so, one, it's helpful to have a place to start posting videos, like a daily tip on, and so if we're going with the court day survival kit, so starting tomorrow, you say, hey, if you're going into court, you want to keep in mind X, Y, and Z, okay? And by the way, the parking is a little weird, so make sure you're bringing quarters for the meter or whatever, right? That's one video. The next day you say, hey, if you're going to court and da-da-da, hey, make sure that you fill out this way. Make sure you bring a black pen because the court doesn't accept blue ink or whatever, right? And as you're making these little videos, you get to do the thing that I mentioned, which is see the analytics. So who's clicking on it? Lots of people. Even in Instagram, for example, you can see the arrow button on the back end. You can see how many people have shared it to, so people are forwarding it. That's good insight, right? So website and social as soon as possible. Your priority here should be, even if people are using your digital product at first for free, right? You're just testing it, forwarding it to people. Hey, can you improve on this? Give me some feedback. Is this what you'd be looking for? If you were to, buy a court day survival kit guide, ask for reviews, ask for testimonials, because what do we all know, right? It's the same stuff as our law firm, is people see social proof. And so when I first started teaching courses, that was what we did. Is, can you give me a testimonial? Can you give me a review? You get 5, and now that's added to the website. And so then when someone clicks on a video and ends up on the sales page, they're like, oh, well, 10 other attorneys said it was an amazing course. So if I'm on the fence, that's going to put me over, and I'll probably buy it, right? Versus if there's just mute silence. Would you rather go to a restaurant tonight in Nashville that has 100,000 reviews or 2, right? So we all know how that works. Like I said, consider offering it for free or a discount at first. 2 weeks to Trademarks in the very beginning was $7.97. It is not that anymore. That was years ago, right? But I wanted to choose a price point that felt fair for what I was doing, but that also kept in mind that I'd never taught before, right? And I didn't know if I would be good at it. And so it's okay to work your way up, and especially as it gets better and you improve it along the way. The course itself looks so different back then than it does now. And so you can use testimonials and feedback to improve your products too. How many of you are Instagram users? Anybody? Okay, keep your hand up if you've ever watched a reel, which is their version of a video. And it's like a recipe or what, comment this word below and I'll send you the thing, yeah? Okay, that program is called ManyChat. Yeah, you're welcome. I couldn't figure it out, you're welcome. There's a couple others, but that's the leader. So basically you can set up ManyChat if your plan is to market via Instagram. You can set up ManyChat to do exactly that. Hey, if you're going to court, hey, I'm an estate planning attorney. I want to talk to you about blah, blah. I have a free guide that teaches you all about, just comment guide below. Right into their inbox. And so you can game this a million different ways. Some of those ways include asking for their name. So you can, it's a little bot that you can create and say, sure, hey, thanks for asking for that. I got your comment. Just real quick, as we're getting to know each other, right? And this is like in the messages, this is AI, is, hey, what's your name? Sonia. Oh, that's awesome, Sonia. What state do you live in? Right? So my recommendation to you would be to do like 2. If you're asking somebody a million questions before you give them a free guide, that would annoy me, to be honest, right? And I've seen it, I've just closed out of it. I'm like, I'm not doing this with you. Like, you want my email, you want this, my pain points. Somebody asked me what my pain points were. I was like, for a free guide, leave me alone. Like, just give me the guide, So ask like 1 to 2 fair questions that would help you, and then move on. My recommendation would be name and email. That's really all you need, right? That's it. And so, hey, I'd be happy to email that over to you. What's your email? Blah, blah, blah. Gets right in. Now they've added to your email list. And again, I can't overstate the importance of data here. Is that if no one's commenting the word on one post, but they're commenting a bunch on this other one, that's what people want, right? So use that data in favor of what you're going to keep creating and pouring into, and that's how you can take one PDF that is what it started as, and it can end up as a whole course because you realize there was a demand for it, right? So that's how we do a lot of our stuff. Back into the business, I've talked a lot about, support, obviously. Shout out to Joey Vitale, who is not here because I think he's in Italy, but he owns a company called Skybreaker. They are awesome, as well as some of the options here. But also, Upwork is great. If you haven't used it before, it's completely free to create a job post of any kind that people apply to. So I'm a big fan. I don't work for any of these people. I just like to shout out people who are doing well. Hard-won lessons. And I'm almost at time. This is so great. This rarely happens, so I'm really proud. Okay, number one, get out of your own way. Just start. Please, just create a video, do a sketch, make a Google Doc, reach out to one person who might buy your product. Just start there, right? Because that'll alleviate the fear of, is this worth it or not? Is this worth my time, right? But if I hadn't taken the plunge of just creating one outline one time and just to see what would happen, we wouldn't have 4L. And so I really do speak to you from experience. It is one night that I had a glass of wine and I said, you know what? 6 or 7 people have reached out to me on LinkedIn. They want to know how I learned trademarks and I don't have a way. And they're like, well, if you ever teach a course, if you ever know of any resources, please let me know. And I'm like, I will be the resource. Let's just try it. Created an outline, put it up, emailed it to those 5 people, obviously. All 5 of them enrolled at $797 in 2017. And here we are. And we've had hundreds of attorneys take 2 weeks to trademarks. Hundreds. And their results have been absolutely insane. I get regular messages of, I just had my first $100,000 month, $50K month. I'm just like, these numbers are not real. And if I hadn't just done it back then, we wouldn't be here. And I wouldn't have been able to teach hundreds of attorneys to have their own financial success in return. So there is something to this. Do not overthink it. This is something that I really have a lot of trouble with, is because, right, a lot of us are overthinkers, and so we're like, well, what if I can't figure out how to connect this program and that one? I just shouldn't, no, it's just too, you can figure it out. You got yourself this far, right? You can figure it out. You can ask someone. You can hire for the answer. You are capable of solving problems. You wouldn't be sitting here if you were not. Like I said, pre-sale the product before you create it, please, or at least test the interest in it. Your first buyers, like I mentioned in my example, are buying you and not the product itself. It's not about a court day survival kit, because some of you are probably thinking, well, there's got to be some billboard guy who's already doing that. Yeah, but you're you, and that's them, right? And this room alone has multiple family law attorneys, multiple immigration, multiple crim. We all do it a little bit differently. So people do want to hear from you specifically rather than also just getting the court day survival knowledge, right? It's about getting that knowledge from you specifically, which is what this whole field is about. And lastly, your second and subsequent versions will always be better than the first version. But you can't be, your law firm website probably doesn't look the same as it did on day one. You keep improving it and optimizing it and saying, oh, we should put that on there. And it's okay. You can make revisions to stuff. And it will be okay, because if you don't at least start with a rough draft, you'll never have a final draft. So I hope this was helpful, and I really do appreciate your engagement and staying till the very end, because it's not easy to wrap this thing up on your own. So thanks, guys.
Before you go, quick shout out to Becca's List. If you've ever hired a vendor for your law firm and immediately thought, yeah, that wasn't it, this exists for you. Becca's List is a curated list of companies that work with law firm owners. No paid placements, no random recommendations, just real reviews from law firm owners who have already learned the hard way. If you want to see what's working for other firms and help us grow Becca's List to the largest place for law firms to find trusted answers, head to beccaslist.co and leave your first review today.